So, welcome, Robert Smallbone, to the Property Regeneration Show. Would you like to introduce yourself to everyone and highlight the key thing we'll be discussing today in relation to your newly published book?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on the show, Rachel. Really appreciate your time and thank you as well. A bit about myself. So, yeah, my name's Rob Smallbone, co-host of the Property Nomads podcast, also
Yep.
author of Buy to Let How to Get Started. Property Nomads itself, apart from the podcast, a property sourcing company. We do a bit of project management here and there for people, but we work mainly with international clients and domestic clients to find properties that suit their criteria. A little bit of training as well. Starting to take a few more mentees on, which is very pleasing. So that's the Property Nomads in a nutshell.
Brilliant. So, what made you get into the world of property? How did your journey start, in a sense, that I assume led you to writing the book you did?
Yeah, so initially I've been in property about 3.5 years, and where was I? So I was traveling with one of my now business partners in a completely different business in 2014, 2015, and we just had so much time on the road where we're having such a good time, traveling around, enjoying the time and enjoying the scenery in Brazil, Argentina, South America, Central America.
Yeah.
And we just kept talking and kept thinking, we're really enjoying what we're doing here, but is there a way that we can go back, work hard, work smart, but then switch, we wanted to come up with a way or think of a way of which we could replicate the traveling lifestyle.
Yeah.
Without having to go back to work for 3 years and then travel back to work, and keep undertaking that cycle. And from there, we came up with the idea of property. Obviously, property's been around for years and years and years and years. We didn't just make it up, but we thought it'd be a good place to start, purely because a lot of wealthy people do it. People have been doing it for generations, and that was it. Jumped straight in, read books, listened to podcasts, attended some training, done some training, soak up the knowledge like a sponge, take action, and it was never my intention when first got started in property to end up writing a book or to end up having a podcast. Just natural progression.
Okay. And the podcast, as you mentioned, your co-host, how did the name come about? Because it's quite a unique name that quite catchy that gets your attention and gets you thinking, how was that?
You can thank Matt for that. Matt came up with the Nomads suggestion. I was initially looking at the Property Wanderer back in the day. Then Matt turned around and said, well, actually, you like traveling, I like traveling. What about the word nomad?
Yeah.
Which resonated with both of us, and it resonates with Rachel as well, as she's come on board recently. So we just pluralized it, the property nomads. So we've got the property element, the nomadic, element for the travel, and so I'll hold my hands up. You can't thank me for that one. You have to thank Matt for coming up with the name.
Maybe we can have him on a show as well at one point.
Definitely, his perspective of things is a lot different from mine. So yeah, he'd be a complete different interview. So yeah, I'm sure he'd be delighted.
So going back to your book, what drove you to publish this book? Obviously, there's a lot of property books out there. What is it about your book that finds its place in the market of other property-related books?
So there's some fantastic generic property books out there. In my time of researching, I could not find anything that was very specific to buy to let, or how to effectively start from scratch and then get a buy to let property. So that was a driving force of writing it. And it's an area, or it's the strategy that I'm not going to claim that I know absolutely everything in the world, but it's a strategy that I implement 90% of the time. So I felt it was a good position to write that from, because it's most of what the portfolio is.
Okay. So diving into the book a little bit more, are you able to talk our readers through what they can expect what golden nuggets they can expect to get out of your book?
Yeah, so it's designed and written for people that might have a couple of properties or have not invested in property yet, that just want to get started. It identifies how you can pick an area, the best area that you can find for yourself. So that follows a 10-5-2-1 model, which has been designed. Then it goes on to how to find sort of your gold mine. Everyone knows, a gold mine area, like that key area.
Yes.
So it goes on to identify how you can figure out what your gold mine area is, sort of questions you need to ask lettings agents, estate agents, how to view property, good ways of putting offers in, because as investors, we do put a lot of cheeky offers in. Just how to do that in an elegant fashion, all the way through to what the typical buying process should be. So we know that property doesn't always go exactly to plan, but there's a 20-stage buying process that's in there as well. Amongst other things, loads of other sort of little bonuses in there as well, like other top podcasts to listen to, other top books to read, a lot of mindset as well, because mindset's very important in property.
For sure.
Pretty much everything that I could think of that I've done, I just documented it and put it into a book format. So
it's experiences that you've lived and lessons you've learned that, in a sense, you've documented for others to take from and learn and enhance their property journey, in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. You might have a massive portfolio and you might pick up the book and you might still learn something. There's something in there for everyone. I've documented not everything, but I've documented things that I've done well, things that haven't gone so well, and 9 times out of 10 it all comes down to the mindset that we have. And there are good elements of goal setting in the book as well. Buy to let isn't a quick win, and I make that clear in the book as well. It's this is buy to let is a very slow strategy. You will get there eventually. So there is a dose of realism in there as well. It's not trying to almost sell this dream of read this book and get 20 properties this year.
I guess one of the things you've mentioned there, and that's quite key, is it's written for whether you are a seasoned in property or looking to start out. So it kind of appeals to a spectrum of knowledge within the property market, whether it's little or a lot. What are the key things you think someone new to the property market can take out of reading your book, and also applying that to someone who has a lot of knowledge within property? What could they also take out from reading your book?
The answer to both of them would be that there's no right or wrong way of doing things in property. Now, let me just put some clarity on that. When I assume that let's just say that you work under this giant ethical umbrella. So as long as it's within the parameters of the law, everyone's okay. There's really no right or wrong way of then doing anything in property. You could go out and deal with the viewings yourself. You can, use sourcing agents. You can be as hands-off as you want to be. You can be as hands-on as you want to be. You can manage your own properties if you want. You don't have to manage your properties if you don't want to. You can use your own finance if you've got it. I always say it's a good thing to use your own money if you've got money sat there. Or, as most of us are trained to do, use other people's money and utilize that as well. But really, there's no right or wrong. And I think, I hope that comes across in the book. It's not, this is how I do it, you must do it this way, this is right. It's really a case of, this is how it's worked for myself. However, I do understand that you might not want to do it this way, but you could do it this way. So I think from a novice point of view and from an experienced investors, the book should provide belief that if I can do it, you can do it. And I mean that humbly, and without any self-depreciation on myself. If I can do it, you can do it as well.
Yeah. So, you going to your own experience within your property journey, what would you say have been the highs and the lows of your journey? And what do you think propelled you to that level from a starter to maybe a seasoned or more knowledgeable, comfortable type of property investor?
Oh, good question, Rachel. Highs and lows. Not really. It's not really a low point, but this story is quite funny. So,
Yeah.
first property we ever bought. I was in Reading at the time, in south
Mm-hmm.
of England, buying up in
Yeah.
Hull, and I remember getting. The builders were doing the works and everything was going okay. Learned a lot from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was an issue with one of the joists, and it needed replacing. So the floor came up, etc.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, before the floor came up, this guy went round, and this all due respect to him, he was a very big unit, very big guy,
Yeah.
and he got on his little step ladder, and then proceeded to go through the floor,
Oh my.
which he was okay. No, there was no issues, no one was injured or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. But yeah, it was one of those you should have been there at the time. It was, we all found it
Health and
funny.
safety awareness.
Yeah, a bit of health and safety awareness. I think everyone had a bit of a laugh. No one was injured, which is good. But it kind of made me realise that if you're employing or working with builders, try and make sure that they're not ridiculously heavy when they're working on fragile floors, because that
Yeah.
could happen. That could happen. Highs and lows. Accumulating the wealth is a high. It's a high that happens over time.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the other highs is being able to know that we're going into an industry that we're able to provide, and I say this for most landlords, in fact, well, hopefully most landlords out there, that we're providing a valuable service to people. We're providing good quality, safe accommodation for people to live in,
Yeah.
and providing that service and doing our part for the economy.
Mm-hmm.
I think is important. So that's a natural high that comes from doing just investing in property anyway.
Yeah.
Other highs would be, in general, to be able to help people.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that's knowledge through podcasts, whether that's knowledge through the books,
Yeah.
training, etc. Being able to help people and see them get success as well is really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
Low points, down valuations are never fun to deal with. They're always a bit of a pain in the backside. Dealing with and the knock-on effects from, say, something like that would be having to then have the challenging conversations with investors, that they might have to leave a bit more money in the deal, or the money might not come back as quickly. I wouldn't say they're not like ridiculously low points. It's just communication at the end of the day, but they're not always the most pleasant conversations to have.
Yeah.
If you've got a pragmatic approach to it and the investor and yourself know each other relatively well, 9 times out of 10 you'll be able to sort it out very amicably.
Yeah.
Because down valuations and stuff like that are just part of property. You have to work with the economics and make sure you get the right people out doing the right thing.
That's true. It's a good point. I like the point you made about contributing to the economy. I think that's one thing that perhaps is not emphasized as much. We hear a lot about people wanting to give back in terms of educating others to get into the same type of field. But in terms of the economy, you look at the wider perspective of, in a sense, assisting the government to be able to meet its target to provide enough housing for people. You got the bigger players that are contributing to meeting that target, but not so much is publicized about the smaller groups like ourselves trying to provide housing for the population that they need. That's a very good point you brought up, and to actually hear you say that, the first person I've, in a sense, heard say that, so it's quite good. So where do you see yourself, in the sense 5 years from now, as a podcast host, as a property investor? And do you have any plans perhaps in the future about writing more books? What are your goals?
To pretty much continue along the same path. The Property Nomads has been going for, again, at the time of recording, the time of publication, about 15 months, 16 months. So our aim is to continue doing what we're doing, continue to add value and excitement through the podcast as well. Every day we learn something different. What Matt and Rachel do in the business is completely different from what I do.
Yeah.
We've all got offsetting qualities, which means we function well as a team. That's really important. There will be a new book out at the start of 2020. I haven't got a date yet, but check in with the podcast, check in with our social medias. It's just a collation of top property tips, essentially, from various people within the industry. So again, check back in with us in due course. So there is another one in the pipeline. What else? To continue to source for clients, to continue to take on mentees, grow that arm of the business, whilst exploring more opportunities with potential joint venture partners, and to get that more of a lifestyle balance. As every entrepreneur, and you've probably had the same thing, is when you get involved in something, when you start getting involved in something, you put a lot of time into it, you put a lot of graft into it, and it's all worthwhile. It is worthwhile. Then at some point, and we're all different, depending on our experiences that we've had and experiences that we've won, that we want, we might start to take our foot off the gas a little bit, because it's not always, in my opinion, it's not always about working 14, 15, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, to then promote that on social media that you're some sort of hero and you're doing all that. For me, I like a relatively chilled lifestyle. So the podcast is good fun. Helping people is really good fun. It's extremely valuable as well for everyone involved.
Yes.
So to continue along that path, to continue to add to the portfolio, a few a year, nothing major, but to do it for 20, 30, 40 years, and just let it accumulate over time.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add to our discussion that perhaps has been left out, in reference to your book, your knowledge in the field, your business, that you believe would be a benefit to those listening in to the show?
Well, the easiest thing to do with the book is to go and buy it. It's on Amazon. Last time I checked in, it was about £10.
Yep.
So relatively small investment there. So go and check it out. Feedback to us, feedback to me.
Yep.
Feedback on Amazon. Go and check out the podcast as well. This is this podcast is fantastic. I think you've done a really good job building what you've built and will continue to build. And so go and check out the Property Nomads podcast as well. We release every Monday. And really, we all can do it. It's about that bit of self-confidence.
Yeah.
If you do it under that ethical umbrella, there's really no right or wrong. That's important. And you just surround yourself with the good people. The lessons that a lot of people will, and probably the same with yourself as well, Rachel, you get told the same lessons. Surround yourself with the right people. Your net worth is your network, and vice versa.
Yeah.
All of these things are so true. And it's really good to learn. It's really good to listen to podcasts. It's really good to read books. That's fantastic. You have to take the action as well. So be pragmatic, be realistic, just crack on, and we're all successful in our own right, and do what works for you and do what you enjoy.
Brilliant. And if people want to follow more of your work, how can they go about that? You mentioned the podcast. How about social media platforms that they can perhaps reach out to you?
Yeah, so the Property Nomads podcast is on Instagram, is on Facebook. That's very easy. They're very easy to follow. If you want to know more about the sourcing side, everything like that, check out Matt McSherry and Rachel Taylor Lawrence on Facebook. they use social media. I'm not one. I'm not a massive person for social media.
Yeah.
But
A bit like
alternative,
Marmite, like it or hate it.
yeah, it is. That's why we work well as a team. But if there's anything you want to know personally from myself, or you're interested in anything that we can offer, if you email me at rob@thepropertynomads.com.
Yep.
So rob@thepropertynomads.com.
Yep.
Email me. That's the easiest way that you'll get in contact with myself, is email. But certainly for Matt and Rachel, to see the sort of projects that we're doing and how we can help international clients and clients, do follow them on social media, because they're a lot more active than myself.
Yeah, for sure. And I see you got a presence on LinkedIn as well, and you recently did a hike, is that right? In Yorkshire?
Oh, that was Matt.
Was that Matt? That's Matt. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was Matt.
That's something quite interesting.
Yeah, it's
What was that? Was that for charity?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think Matt done it because he wanted to test himself physically.
Oh, I see.
The feedback that I've had from him, that he really did enjoy it, and when he does it again, or if he does a different one, then we'll look to do a charity aspect, or he'll look to do a charity aspect for that. But yeah, Matt, again, there's no real right or wrong way to work. Matt really and Rachel, they really enjoy sharing what they're doing on a day-to-day basis on social media.
Yeah.
And many people do, and I understand that. I think that's fantastic. But for myself, and I'm a very introverted person, I like to keep myself to myself.
Yeah.
So, I've been a bit hot and cold with social media, but I'm now starting to get into the groove of, if you need me, email me. But
Yeah.
Matt,
they say podcast works for the introvert, whereas the social media platforms are more for the extrovert in terms of putting themselves out there visually and tracking what they're doing on a daily basis. And I think it was Rob Moore who said that YouTube is more for the extrovert, and then podcast is more for the introvert in terms of trying to market yourself out there.
It's so true, and ultimately there's so many different ways in which you can work. There's so many different methodologies that you can have. I mean, I have two books that I'd recommend to anyone that's listening to this. If you've not read these books or got them on Audible, then get them. Number one is Focal Point by Brian Tracy. Really, really good book about leverage, using other people's money, knowledge, time, etc.
Yep.
Then the other one is Deep Work by Cal Newport. Incredible book, really, really incredible, and that goes into how it's much better to focus without distraction. Because if you do that, you can get more deep work done, which means you can effectively become more productive.
Yep.
Now, in theory, that's fantastic, and I've been putting these principles in place for the last few weeks, and I'm not perfect, but they're working okay.
Yep.
As you would well know, and I'm sure that everyone listening to this would know, that sometimes in property we kind of get this thing where we need to have our phone on us at all time because anything can happen, and we want to be ready at the other end of the phone, etc.
Yeah.
But I do challenge yourselves and everyone listening that every once in a while, first of all, read the books, but secondly, there is no harm in turning your phone off. There's no harm in putting it on airplane mode, and especially if you're trying to balance a few things like book writing or podcasting or things like that.
Yeah.
If you focus on something, you'll achieve it in a much quicker time than if you're thinking you're focused on something. For example, writing a blog. If your phone's off and you can write a blog in an hour, fantastic.
Yep.
If you're writing a blog and you've got your phone on and you get distracted, it takes 21 minutes to refocus anyway.
That's right.
You might find that it takes 4 hours to write the blog, and if you've got to do it once a week, 4 hours a week because you're getting distracted, it might not be a conducive use of time. But if you haven't got any distractions and you can do it in an hour, I always say the same thing. If I'm difficult to get hold of, and sometimes I do it on purpose because of various things that are going on, I need to have focus.
Yes.
If it's that urgent, it's life and death, someone will find a way to get hold of you.
It's true. It's good advice. Okay, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure having you on here. Sure there's a lot of golden nuggets to take away there. And those listening, please go out and get hold of the book, add to your knowledge in property. And Mark, hopefully we'll have you back on the show again.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. Really appreciate that, and hopefully this has added a significant value to your listeners, and I look forward to having them listen to the Property Nomads podcast as well.
Sure, thank you. Take care.
Take care.